Story 1. The Man in Room 417 never checked out. I travel alone for work almost every month, and over the years I've learned that all cheap roadside hotels share the same feeling. The carpets are always slightly damp no matter the weather. The air conditioner makes a hollow clicking noise every 20 minutes, and the hallways carry sound in strange ways like whispers that don't belong to anyone. 3 years ago, I was sent to a small desert town for a 2-night warehouse inspection. It was the kind of town you pass without noticing unless your gas tank is low. I checked into a 2-story roadside hotel just off the highway. The neon sign outside flickered inconsistently, buzzing like an insect caught in electricity. Inside, the lobby lights were dim, even though it was barely 9 p.m. The man at the front desk looked exhausted, pale, and detached. He slid a key card across the counter and said, 417, without making eye contact. His voice was flat, almost mechanical. No welcome, no small talk. Just the number. Room 417 was on the second floor at the far end of the corridor. The outdoor walkway faced the parking lot, and the metal railing vibrated slightly when trucks passed on the highway. The room itself looked ordinary. Beige walls. One landscape painting bolted into place. A bed with stiff white sheets. I locked the door, tested the handle twice, then slid the interior latch into place. I always check twice. It's a habit. I unpacked, answered emails, watched television for a while, and turned the lights off around 11:30 p.m. At exactly 11:47 p.m., there was a knock. 3 slow taps. Not aggressive, not hesitant, perfectly spaced. I sat up immediately. My first thought was that it had to be a mistake. Maybe someone confused the rooms. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. The corridor was empty. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, and I could see the doors of rooms 415 and 419 shut tight. I opened my door quickly, expecting someone to be walking away, but there was no movement, no footsteps, no voices. The parking lot below was still. I locked the door again and told myself it was nothing. At 12:03 a.m., the knock came again. 3 slow taps. Identical rhythm. This time I didn't move right away. I waited. My chest felt tight. After about 10 seconds, I went to the peephole again. Still empty. I didn't open it. Instead, I called the front desk. The phone rang longer than it should have before the same clerk answered. I told him someone had knocked twice. There was a pause. Not confusion, not surprise, just silence. Then he said quietly, "No one's up there." I asked if he could check the cameras. Another pause. "Cameras are working," he said. "No one's there." His voice sounded careful, like he was choosing each word. I barely slept. The next day I left early and came back around 6 p.m. As I walked toward my room, I noticed that room 419 had a maintenance tag hanging from the handle. It read, "Out of order." I was almost certain it hadn't been there the night before. The hallway felt different that evening, heavier somehow. I went inside 417 and locked everything again. This time I pushed a chair under the handle. I told myself it was just precaution. At 1:12 a.m., I woke up without knowing why. The television was off. The AC was silent. Then I heard it. Slow footsteps outside, back and forth, directly in front of my door. They weren't pacing the corridor. They were pacing my door. The handle moved once, a gentle downward test. The chair pressed tighter into the handle. I froze. Under the crack of the door, I saw a shadow. It didn't move. It just stayed there, blocking the thin strip of light from the hallway. My mouth went dry. I didn't breathe. After what felt like a full minute, the shadow slowly shifted away. No knocking this time. Just that silent attempt. I stayed awake until morning, At checkout, I confronted the clerk. I told him someone had tried my handle. He stared at me longer than normal, then leaned forward slightly. "You're in 417?" he asked. I said yes. He swallowed. "You can switch rooms if you want." I asked why. He hesitated before saying, "That room's had complaints." I asked what kind. He didn't answer directly. "People say someone knocks, sometimes says it's maintenance, cameras don't show anyone." The way he said it didn't sound like superstition, it sounded like experience. I packed immediately. As I walked down the corridor one last time, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The maintenance tag on 419 was gone. The door was slightly open. The room inside was dark, but I could see movement. Just a subtle shift of darker shadow within the darkness, like someone stepping back from the doorway when they realized I was looking. I left without turning around. 2 weeks later, a coworker called me. He'd been assigned to the same town. I casually asked what hotel he stayed in. Same one. I asked what room. 417, he said. There was silence on the phone for several seconds. Then he asked, "Did someone knock on your door at night?" I'd never told him anything about it. He checked out the next morning without finishing his assignment. The hotel still operates. Room 417 is still listed online. And I still wonder if someone is assigned to that room on purpose. Story 2. The extra lock inside room 12. 2 winters ago, I was driving through the mountains in Colorado when a snowstorm rolled in faster than forecasted. The highway was shut down, and I had no choice but to find a nearby place to stay. The only available option was a small mountain lodge, about 15 minutes off the main road. From the outside, it looked charming. Wooden exterior, warm lights in the windows, smoke rising from a chimney. Inside, though, the air felt damp and stale, like the building had absorbed too many winters. The receptionist handed me a physical key instead of a card. "Room 12, he said. "Locks can be tricky. Make sure it clicks." His tone wasn't friendly, but it wasn't rude either. Just matter of fact. The hallway floors creaked loudly with every step. Room 12 was near the end. Inside, the room looked simple. Wooden dresser, small bathroom, heavy curtains. I locked the door and heard the click. Then I noticed something unusual. Above the main lock was a second deadbolt. It looked newer than the rest of the door. Shiny metal. No keyhole on the outside, only on the inside. I assumed it was extra security and locked it too. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to a faint, metallic sound. At first I thought it was part of the building settling, but then it came again. A soft twist. From the door. The handle moved slightly downward, then stopped. My heart began pounding. I sat up in the dark and stared at the outline of the door. Then, I heard the main lock shift, not fully turning, just pressure against it. Someone was testing it from outside. Then something happened that I still cannot explain. The second deadbolt began to turn, slowly, deliberately. The metal made a grinding sound as it rotated. I hadn't touched it. There was no keyhole on the outside. And yet it turned, unlocked. I jumped out of bed and rushed to the door, grabbing the bolt and twisting it back into place with shaking hands. Whoever was outside stopped moving. Complete silence filled the room. Then came 3 slow knocks. Calm, controlled. I didn't answer. I didn't speak. I stood there in the dark until sunrise. In the morning, I went straight to the front desk and told the receptionist what happened. When I described the second deadbolt, he frowned. "There is no second lock on room 12, he said. I insisted there was. He grabbed a master key and followed me back upstairs. When we reached the door, I felt the blood drain from my face. There was only one lock, old, scratched. No shiny metal, no second deadbolt. I stepped inside and examined the door closely. Just one lock, nothing above it. I didn't argue further. I packed immediately. As I was driving away through the snow, I checked my phone and noticed something strange. At 2:37 a.m., exactly when the second lock had turned, my phone logged an attempt to connect to a nearby Bluetooth device. The device name was Room 12_inside. I had never paired with anything there. I never stayed in that lodge again. I later checked online reviews out of curiosity. Several mentioned strange door noises in Room 12. One review simply said, "There is more than one way into that room." It was deleted a week later. I still think about that second lock sometimes, about how it turned without a key, and about what would have happened if I hadn't woken up when I did.